In this video, we are going to be dissecting the history of future bass and getting into the question of what is future bass so you can better understand it. So when I'm making things, doing things, and recreating the track, you're not going to be like, well, why did I do that? So future bass is an offshoot of the dubstep era. It's kind of sub-post dubstep, I guess. And its derivative forms, I guess, would be trap, actually, and future trap even. It has an offshoot at first of kind of future house and future garage, but that quickly changed. So a lot of people kind of characterize future bass as like the happy trap. So trap is typically minor dominant sounding chord progressions, melodies, all that sort of stuff. And future bass is a little bit more major. There's definitely some minor themed songs or some minor keyed songs out there in future bass, but for the most part, it's a little bit happier sounding than trap, but it has a lot of the same elements of trap. The drum grooves are usually not 4 on the floor, meaning the book, boots and hats and boots and or boots and cats. I don't know what that is, but it's usually actually groove based, like that type of stuff. There's actually a groove, a rhythm to it. It's not just 4 on the floor, and the tempo ranges, it ranges from anywhere from 70 to 80 all the way up to like 160, 170. There's so much freedom with future bass. I think that's why it's catching on. I've noticed that recently in the EDM world, the genres that really catch on and have a lot of crossover appeal are the ones that have the most wiggle room in terms of the sonic palette that you use or that you're able to use and still be recognized as that genre. And then also the tempo. I remember about 3 or 4 years ago, like every track was 128 beats per minute or 126 or 125. Like main room, it was big room. You had progressive. You had even like the trance, the electro. It was all at that tempo, and it kind of played itself out for sure. And everyone was probably getting sick of hearing all that music at that tempo. And that's when dubstep came in, and dubstep kind of was like, oh, holy crap! This is double time. This is 140, 150, 144. Well, future bass, it started out around, I would say, if I'm remembering correctly, it was around 95 to about 105, 110, and then it kind of expanded from there. It slowed down into the like halftime feel of 80, 85 beats per minute, and then all the way up to like 140, 150, 160 for that really trap-oriented future bass feel. Now, in a few minutes, we're going to start listening to some examples of some relatively new future bass tracks, just so you get an idea of just where future bass can go, because with these how to make tutorials on Sonic Academy, it might be really cool, and it usually oftentimes I think is really cool to see how someone makes a track, but I want you to walk away from this tutorial course going into you making your own future bass music, feeling really comfortable doing it, and not trying to recreate what I created in this video necessarily, but just know that these elements, these mixing things, the sound design that you'll be learning throughout this course are applicable to almost all forms of future bass. So it really, I guess, from what I looked up online, found on Quora, Reddit, and even Wikipedia, it looks like it started around 2006 in the United Kingdom. I never heard of it in 2006. The first time I heard of future bass was actually around 2011, 2012. And it was not what it is now. It was very, very different. So it started out in the UK and then kind of came over to the US and even Australia. Now it is, like I said, it's a groove based, and it has typically sub bass elements, and it's usually the synth chords are usually sawtooth and squares. So, which is kind of funny because it's really the derivative of almost all waveforms outside of a sinusoidal waveform. But I digress. So what we have with future bass is, because it's kind of that dubstep post era feeling, it's basically, instead of having wub, wub, wub and growls, you have LFO effects or volume automation, or even you can do it with advanced sidechain compression patterns. You basically have some movement on some synth chords. Now the chords are, like I just said, they're very supersaw oriented or they're square oriented. And the cool thing for me personally about future bass was when it started to take shape with Flume was one of the pioneers that really helped it get into the mainstream of EDM. And the chords are kind of unique in that with a lot of EDM music, the chords are pretty damn basic. They're not a lot of interesting chords. Not a lot of like seventh chords, suspended, like second chords, add ninth chords, all that sort of stuff. Well, in future bass, that is a huge, huge ingredient to the overall recipe. Is if you just do triads, your future bass tracks are going to sound weird. They're not going to sound like future bass. They're just going to sound like super happy, bouncy pop. So you got to have a certain element of music theory that you may not know. You may need to add to your repertoire, and I'm going to try to touch on that best I can in this tutorial course so you can feel comfortable extending your chords away from just typical triads, fifths, octave type stacks. Now, that is so that you have these moving chords with this groove-based synth music that's occurring from anywhere from 80 to 160 beats per minute. It's typically in a major key, not necessarily has to be, but it's usually not super dark and deep sounding. Now, the sawtooth waves or the square waves, the main sounds, your chord sounds. So in the drop of a future bass track, the lead isn't as prominent as it is in other tracks. You have these chord sounds. Some people call them synth sounds, some people call them chords. I'll probably bounce back and forth between those two terms throughout this course because if I could keep it straight the whole course, I would deserve a cookie, but probably not going to be able to do it. So a really popular thing to do with future bass is to have a LFO or some type of modulator modulating a low pass filter on the synth. And you can do that in a bunch of different ways, and I'll touch on that throughout the course. Now, another huge element to future bass is arpeggiated chords and arpeggiated sounds, as well as kind of just like vocal chops are really popular as well. So, like I said before, future bass is often described as being the summer season of trap or the happy version of trap, since a lot of the genres have that trap feel in terms of our style of the beat and the drum groove. But the synths are usually brighter, the synths are usually happier, and the chords are sometimes, even if there are minor chords in it, that the major chords are really the tonic of the key. Now, we're going to jump into Spotify real quick, and we're going to listen to some examples of some future bass. So I'm on a future bass playlist, and some of these are going to be weird. I'm going to play let's actually play a Chainsmokers song real quick, because Chainsmokers had a song that really popularized kind of the pop version of future bass earlier this year, and it's called Roses. I'm sure you've heard of it. So the first section of this is just straight up pop.
His heart was a stone, but then his hands rolled.
Right? Now here comes the breakdown.
Take me back to a time only we knew how to wait. We could waste an
Now here comes the build back into the drop. See, square, saws, bouncy kind of synths. I like how they added an element of hip hop to it. The what. Now, the really interesting thing to me about all these future-oriented genres, being a sound designer, when they came out, I was kind of laughing because it was like, if you stuck future on top of anything, like people would be like, what is this? Like future tropical house, future deep tropical house, future bass, future house, right? Well, to me, what I've kind of learned that means is when anything's dubbed future, it gives you more wiggle room, because why the hell not? It's called future. So if you're always doing everything that's stuck in the present, if you're listening to what the main players are in the genre and what they're doing, and you're just kind of copying them, how is it going to remain future? So don't be afraid to push the boundary with a genre, especially a genre like future bass. Now, that was one that really popularized future bass in the mainstream, and I think they have a new one out. Theirs is pretty simple. Alright, this song is a trap type track, and that's something that I think is going to be really fun to do in the next few months. So if you guys want to stay ahead of shit, blend a trap drop on one of your drops, and then later in the song, do that future bass. So you hear that right now, it's building. It's kind of 4 on the floor, right? And then it's just trap. It's pretty basic trap, right? Now, like I said earlier in this video, that future bass is kind of the happy hellspawn of trap. So So it's happier. Well, this is dark right now, right? It's not necessarily dark, but you're not gonna be super happy to it, right? Well, listen to the drop, the last drop in the chorus. So here's kind of the bridge. It's gonna build back in, and it's more future bass. So that's something that I think you guys should play around with this. I haven't played around with it yet, and I'm like chomping at the bit to do it. I want to get this push and pull between, maybe you have a 16 bar drop, and the first 8 is trap, and then the next 8 is future bass. All right, so Chainsmokers are a really good example of some really, really cool future bass. Now let's go back to that future bass playlist from Ultra Music. Now this first one's kind of weird. It was uploaded 4 days ago. This is just straight pop.
I gave you what was mine.
Right, so that's not future bass. You'll run into that. A lot of this 80s pop, this indie EDM is kind of getting in the way of future bass, but it's really not. So let's listen to some of these that I have checkmarked here. Let's listen to Flume and Tuvlo.
Get with a game on. You are my kind, classic mind, and you look so fine. Loving the cold, smoking rose, see your fingers shake, and getting through your heartbreak. Some kind of free, same for me. Don't know what I need.
All right, so give us the breakdown. And now the drop in this, you have full singing. So in the Chainsmokers tracks, they kind of dropped out the singing. Now this has full singing.
When you say it like that, got me falling right back. When you say it like that, let me fuck you right back.
Ooh, she said a bad word. All right, so that one is, I think that one's at about 150 beats per minute. Don't quote me on that. It's probably 149, 150. But I'm going to go through and count some of the tempos as we do this, and you'll see the wide range of the tempo. Back to Chainsmokers real quick. Roses, I want to say, is at like 105. Let me count this real quick. Is that around 100? I'm tempo tapping it. So yeah, there's just a huge variation. This one's 150, I would say 148. That one's 100. Let's listen to San Holo one. So you can hear that trap influence, right? Some interesting kind of jazzy chords. They're just really inverted on that first pass. Alright, so that synth right there, the way it hits, totally sounds like Serum. So it has this modulated LFO, it's panning it. And that little quick stutter right there.
We're gonna fly.
I don't know if San Holo uses FL Studio. He might. If you guys, any of you know that, post that up in the comments. But it sounds like he's doing like a volume automation, either on the volume and the envelope control with like Fruity Loops or FL Studio, or he's doing it with either any really DAW. You can do it with Live, you can do it with Logic, or it sounds like even the LFO tool, or he's modulating to another envelope in the synth. I'm pretty sure that one sounds like Serum to my ear, and it's doing that, you know, it's going from the back and forth stutter to that really quick one right there. And there's just a sub and kicks. So this one's about 148, maybe 150. I could have counted that wrong. I was counting it quick. So let's listen to this one real quick. I think that says trendsetter. I don't know. I was taught that words have vowels. I think that, I don't. Just listen.
Must be something underneath.
I like those chords. Do you hear the? They're more intricate chords than you get in a lot of other genres of EDM.
Hard on the call, I guess it comes from your heart. 'Cause when your head's right, you take your time. There's something about the love of things.
This is about 130. Vocal glitches. I actually like this song a lot.
Trendsetter too.
Here comes the fill to the drop.
Fire when the strobe hits you.
That's it, Brian?
I'll show you guys how to do those. That kind of the way that envelope on that LFO kind of goes from really quick, like and it slows down. I'll show you how to do that in Massive.
Bet you're looking for something new.
Just a dope track. So yeah, the range of this stuff is you can do anything you want, really. This one's kind of a weird one. Very, very progressive in the verses and breakdowns. A little bit of like a tropical house feel even too with the drums, the live drum groove. Alright, so that one's pretty frenetic. It's a lot more chaotic than the other ones. That one's more heavily influenced by trap to my ear. And yeah, it's a really cool track. Let's listen to one more here. Alright, so that's at about 90 beats per minute. And so we've seen one at 90, we've seen one at 105, we've seen one at 130, all the way to 145, 150. Let's listen to this last one here and we'll call it a day on checking these out. So this has got like actually like a 2000 pop vibe, right? Like with those minor chords there.
Hey, little mama, with that tight dress on, I got a small proposition for you. Come a little smoking, do the gangsta walk, hey, hey. All my niggas do the gangsta walk, all my niggas do the gangsta walk. All my niggas do the gangsta walk.
This one feels like it's at like around 128, 130. So there's just so much you can do with it. I'm going to stop playing this because we get the idea. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is I don't want to just show you all this music and then you guys are like, well, what's the purpose of this? There's a huge purpose to this. And this is, in my opinion, one of the things that when anyone who wants to learn a new genre of music, especially when genres evolve, if you're not the guy who created it, we're all learning it, right? Except for like someone like Flume who really pioneered that sound. Like Chainsmokers, all the other DJs, producers we just listened to, they had to learn how to do this stuff as well. So what you do, or what I like to do, or what I tell people to do when they ask me this question, is go listen to a bunch of the music. And if you really want to get into it, this is my little secret that I don't think I've shared yet with anyone. So this will be a first. What I do when I'm trying to get into a new genre, whether it's for a sound set or whether it's for a client or just want to produce a new track in a genre I don't typically do, I will apply some method acting techniques to production because there are so many dope styles of music out there. It can be hard to be like, oh, this is the next track that I want to work on unless you know and you've defined your brand, your niche, whether you're a producer or a DJ as this genre. So what I'll do is I will literally just listen to future bass if I want to do future bass. I'll listen to it for like a week or two. No other type of music crosses my ear. And then what I'll do is I will read interviews with some of the really big Future Bass producers. I'll try to watch some YouTube videos, watch some of their clips of their live sets to see how the fans react to the drops and what they're doing. And just really get into the head of the Future Bass producers who've done it before me in this case. And then what I'll do is I want to keep my own flair in the track, and that's why the track that we're going to be recreating, I chose to do it 120 beats per minute. It's a very pop-oriented BPM. It's a little bit faster than the Chainsmokers track. There's one at 105 and one at like 115, so it's a little bit faster. And I wanted to do that because it'll help do two things. It'll help me not just copy other tracks, because if I sit down listening to a reference track at 128, 130, 150, it's going to turn out very similar. And then it allows it to actually be in its own space, because I'm not going to be able to do the same things sidechain compression-wise, LFO tool, or volume envelope shaping-wise. I could do at 140, 150 beats per minute, and my drum groove is going to have to be a bit more interesting, because like 120 is a great tempo for 4 on the floor, and I don't want to have 4 on the floor. I want to have a groove bass. So this will be an interesting way to kind of, okay, here's what people are doing. How can I still fit that niche, fit that mold, but still be me and still be able to feel like I'm not just, copying what's out there? So that's why I was showing you that. That's my typical process for when I get into doing a new track in a different genre. All right, so we've looked at what Future Bass is. We discussed the history. We looked at a bunch of examples. Now this would be when I start creating a track. This is where I'd feel like, okay, I know what I need to do. We're going to now start with some drums and talk about the drum samples in Future Bass, and just start with a really basic pattern, because that's what I did to create the track. And that will typically change and get more advanced, and different sounds will come in and out of it as the production goes on. But I'll see you guys in the next video.
If you like this course, why not head over to sonicacademy.com, where we have hundreds of complete track builds in every genre imaginable, including all the project files and samples. You'll also find tutorials on plugins and synths, mixing and mastering, over 250 tech tips, artist interviews, along with our award-winning plugins, samples and preset packs.